But I do want to especially thank President Trump. I don't think anybody should doubt his influence. He was with me from the beginning. Somebody wrote the doubt of whether he was there, and he was all in. He would call me and he would call others. And he really was, I was just talking to him tonight, helping get those final votes. And so thank you, President Trump.
All right, newly elected Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy thanking former President Trump there for his support in helping to secure, again, his top spot in the House. But after 4 days of voting, the question is, will Trump's support of McCarthy end up impacting his 2024 presidential run at all? Well, let's bring in the host of Dick Morris Democracy right here on Newsmax and the author of the best-selling book, The Return, Trump's Big 2024 comeback, Dick Morris. Dick, great to see you. I thought it was very interesting that at the end of, days of gridlock and hours of negotiations, that it was President Trump, which Kevin McCarthy gave the initial credit to, despite the fact that you had a lot of key negotiators in this. French Hill, Tom Emmer, Guy Reschenthaler, Scott Perry, all of them working on this framework agreement that ultimately brought 15 of them on board. And again, some few changes in that last round of voting between the 14th and the 15th vote. What were the dynamics at play there, and how much of the credit can really go to the former president on this?
A great deal of the credit, a huge amount. This was Trump's victory. First of all, it shows that the leadership team of Trump and McCarthy really is going to work. And it shows them at their most difficult hour pulling this out. Trump didn't do the bit-by-bit negotiations on the package, but he kept pushing and telling those members to come into line, to get together. From the earliest vote, he said, you've won, declare victory, get these reforms enacted, and go home. And a lot of the mainstream media types are saying, oh, McCarthy can't govern, this will be a disaster, it's an invitation to stalemate, he surrendered his powers and the speaker will be ineffective. That is nonsense. The fact is it'll now be a much more united caucus with rules that permit participation without the frustration of either the dictatorial rule of Nancy Pelosi or the lack of ability to even listen to members when he was sober of John Boehner, and Paul Ryan, insisting it's his way or the highway. McCarthy is totally different.
Yeah, Dick, I want to ask you about this really quick, though. I want to play this sound bite from Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert a little bit earlier this week on the House floor. Take a listen.
Let's stop with the campaign smears and tactics to get people to turn against us. Even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
I'm curious what changes between that moment and then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene handing a phone supposedly with the former president on the line to talk to members before that 15th vote.
Well, I think that Trump was very involved in this. I was on the phone with him last night, and he was calling members. He was talking to people who'll talk to people who'll talk to people and get this thing moving. And I think that it marked a change in Trump's leadership style. It wasn't just a question of, urging people to get things done and throwing out epithets or bluster or whatever. This was really very delicate discussion and very important pressure that he brought to bear. I think the key point that he made, and the key point to make here, is now members will be able to say, I vote for the defense budget, but against the health budget. I vote for the interior budget, but against the stupid bridge McConnell wants to build in Kentucky. Members regain the right to legislate. And I think Trump and McCarthy delivered that to them. And there are some who are uncomfortable with democracy because they're schooled in the Nancy Pelosi school of
But was the message also, Dick, that, this is not a good look for the GOP, 3 days of gridlock, infighting, and, it could potentially impact 2024?
No, it's a great look. When you compare this with the House, where they are just on Pelosi, where they're just automatons, they might as well be voting machines sitting in those seats rather than human beings. The guest before me said she votes for people, not parties. Well, that would be nice, but when all the people do everything they're told by one person, how can you vote for people? They're not people, they're automatons. And now we've really seen them come into their own. We've seen them negotiate with each other, become adults, make decisions. And that's the Republican style as opposed to the Democratic style. And I think we saw this on display, and I think thank goodness we did. This has been a marvelous, fantastic week for Donald Trump.
All right. Dick Morris, great to see you. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll have a lot more to break down in the new year here. Don't forget, you can watch more of Dick's great commentary right here on Newsmax. Saturday, Dick Morris Democracy starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You won't want to miss it.